Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and it's time for Evil Dead 3. Which is not Evil Dead 3, but Army of Darkness. Named so to distance itself from the previous films, as this one was quite different in many, many ways, Army of Darkness sees Bruce Campbell return as Ash Williams and answers the questions of what happened when he got sucked into the time warp. Turns out he got sucked back in time, but more importantly, must still contend with the evil from the cabin, which is a much more commonly known name, the Deadites, whom terrorize miscellaneous medieval setting day and night. Which makes me wonder how they got weakened by the sun in Evil Dead 2. But that's not the point. The point is, there isn't even anything remotely close to an old Dark House script going on here. Considering the different time period, that's understandable, but it does mean that this is the only one of the 4 Evil Dead movies that doesn't take place in a cabin. The direction stays pretty similar to how Raimi did the second film, but the horror aspect is pretty much gone this time around. Yes, there are the Deadites, and they are still undead monsters, but they don't hide in the shadows so much as storm the gates and make Three Stooges references. Well, I guess that could still be horror if viewed through the right lens. But nevertheless, let's take a look at Army of Darkness and see just where Raimi's imagination takes us once the door is unlocked. The film opens up kinda where the last one left off, but of course you can't have a sequel to an Evil Dead movie without rewriting the events of the previous one.
My name is Ash, and I am a slave.
But to be fair, he fucks up the details to this one as well. Ash, slaves do forced labor. You're just chained up to a portable pillory as a prisoner. What the hell part of that makes you think you're a slave? Oh. Okay then. Either way, he figures he's heading towards his execution. While we're at it, we may as well retcon in that before the first movie, he was also working retail at S-Mart.
I had a wonderful girlfriend, Linda.
Played by yet another actress, Bridget Fonda, niece of Jane Fonda. You know, for having one relationship, Ash sure gets around. As Ash explains the plot and events of the last 2 movies, we see that sometimes we get actual scenes from Evil Dead 2, and sometimes reenactments for no apparent reason.
It got into my hand and it went bad, so I lopped it off at the wrist.
Especially considering I think we're all in agreement that the original scene with "Who's laughing now?" was far superior. Point of it all is, this catches the viewer up on the situation where the portal was opened in the cabin and Ash got sucked into it as well as his car. After being puked out in the year 1300 AD, suddenly the movie changes from what the ending of Evil Dead 2 showed us to something very different. There is no Deadite nearby for Ash to shoot, so instead he's just confused and surrounded by confused men in plate armor.
He who's prophesied to fall from the heavens and deliver us from the terrors of the Deadites.
Though the wise man, played by Ian Abercrombie, did watch Evil Dead 2 and remembers how it ended, so he knows Ash is a good guy.
Likely, he's one of Henry's men!
However, Lord Arthur, played by Marcus Gilbert, is a fucking moron and doesn't remember that the army he's been fighting all this time doesn't teleport out of the sky or drive around in Oldsmobiles. You know, I know Ian played Emperor Palpatine in the Clone Wars animated series and video games, but I'm pretty sure you can trust him on this one. So the soldiers seize, disarm, and drag Ash off to be killed, along with Henry and his men. Which brings us up to where the movie opened, spare the fact that there's no way in fuck you can interpret this as enslavement. But this is the Middle Ages, so execution isn't some unfortunate fact of life done in some humane, respectful manner behind closed doors. It's entertainment for the whole family. Hell, at least it's not as graphic as primetime television. Upon reaching town, we are introduced immediately to obviously important female, therefore love interest, Sheila, played by Embeth Embeth. Turns out she was waiting for her brother to return from war, but he kinda sorta got killed by Henry in battle. Sorry about that. Still, this looks like your average healthy relationship to me. Eventually, they reach their destination, that being the pit of brutal and gruesome death. But this gives our prisoners the time to take a breather and chat up a bit, introducing Henry, played by Richard Grove, introducing himself to Ash.
Lord of the Northlands and leader of its peoples.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but 2 things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
Now, it always interests me that it seems that in medieval times, they never mind when an American travels back and is this wildly different accent to everyone else. It just, doesn't bother them in the slightest. Of course, the fact that linguistically speaking, Old English did sound a lot closer accent-wise to American English than British English today might have a little something to do with it. Yeah, Men in Tights got it wrong, who knew? Point is, Arthur captured Henry to execute him for waging war against his people during the Deadite crisis, to which Henry responds, "You started it," and nothing is solved. Nevertheless, their punishment is death, by means of the Pit of Death. Still, you have to appreciate the power of suspense, so first they grab one of Henry's miscellaneous grunts in their fitting red uniform to show us all what fate lies beneath. God damn! You know, whenever I got a gusher, they all just gave out this little piddly in keeping with the idea of killing Henry and with that ending the war. They again fart around the concept, going for Ash instead. He pleads with the executioners, pointing out that he and Henry have never met before today, but unfortunately for him, no one cares. Least of all Sheila and her wicked throwing arm. And the pit is remarkably clean, especially considering the eruption of blood earlier. Makes me wonder if the lament configuration is going to make an appearance. No, just a zombie. Or a ghoul. Deadite. The evil dead. Undead. Thing. One of those. One must question the combat prowess of Henry's men, as Ash doesn't have nearly as much trouble avoiding being liquefied in the first few seconds of the encounter. In fact, he's doing so good fighting the monster off one-handed, Arthur orders the guards to activate the spiked walls, because they have those. However, the wise man still believes Ash is the one who's come to save them, and returns with his legendary weapon. Giving Ash the chance to introduce Western civilization to motherfucking chainsaw hands! As well as the pit demon, who he slices up pretty quickly. Except there's still a couple problems. 2 spike walls, and another pit demon just to keep things interesting. Don't worry though, Ash has the magical technology of a leather belt, which lets him hold on to a chain, because for some reason, without it, he can't. Anyhow, he makes it out of the pit in one piece, and is able to actually try his hand at diplomacy with Arthur.
You know your shoelace is untied.
Sure, that was just a misunderstanding. And now Ash will explain how he...
Who wants some? Huh? Who wants to have a little?
Or he's just gone completely crazy and is about to slaughter the entire village with his motherfucking chainsaw hand. Now, either way, maybe not. After he gets his fill of taunting the population, he does the first good deed of the day, freeing Henry and his men, who ride off to the horizon, laughing about cheating death once more. Obviously, this doesn't sit well with Arthur, so Ash tries a little more of that diplomacy stuff. Right, so he's got that loaded with slugs? I mean, Buckshot would have still got him from that angle. Come to think of it, a slug probably would have still got him too. Honestly though, Ash does give a little speech at this point, mainly about his gun.
My boomstick!
Whatever, his shotgun, which he rattles off the details of quite admirably. As it just so happens, he stocked them in the sporting goods section of S-Mart, and knows the specs by heart.
Shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that?
And that sounds kinda like product placement. Or business placement. Anyway, but the thing is, in the research I did, the only S-Mart chains I could find were down in Mexico. And I'm pretty sure that they didn't fork over a whole bunch of money to advertise themselves in Army of Darkness. Anyway, yeah, he's got a gun and can scare them into submission and everything, but how is he going to get them on his side? Well, that'll do. Nice form on the backflip, by the way. This lands Ash into the lap of medieval luxury, as it were, as a means of saying, sorry we almost executed you, oh chosen one. Sheila even shows up to apologize about the whole punch and spit and rock thing.
First you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow.
Oh, hold on, Bruce, it's not that kind of movie. Blow time will have to wait, though, as the wise man shows up to remind Ash that being the chosen one doesn't just mean free roast and grapes under the double D air conditioning, but the fact that he has to rid the land of the Deadites, and to do so, he must quest for the Necronomicon. Of course, that's not going to be easy.
You shall die!
And that would get in the way of that whole return to your own time plan you got. This is what everyone means when they say that they live under the terror of the dreaded Deadites, though. The evil happens to be all around, and people suddenly becomes possessed to try to kill you. Ruins some folks' days. Fortunately, though, Ash, using his future technology, can easily dispatch the beasts. Of course, it doesn't hurt that his double-barrel shotgun never seems to need to be reloaded. And yeah, I did edit that scene slightly to cut it down and avoid the content ID bot false flagging it, but trust me, we never see him reload it during those 4 shots out of a double-barrel shotgun, except some frickin' pump action sounds away from it, but it's not a pump action, it's a breech loader. It's not a DP-12. Realizing that they won't help him get back to his time without the Necronomicon, because the spell to get him back happens to be inside it, Ash eventually agrees to help on one condition. He needs a new hand, and with medieval engineering, somehow they build him a more advanced prosthetic hand than RoboCop had to work with.
Groovy.
Not to dampen the technological wizardry at work here, but personally, I preferred the motherfucking chainsaw hand. After this, we establish Ash as a self-centered dick. But that doesn't really matter because he and Sheila fall for each other just the same. He heads out in the morning to find the Necronomicon, being led only so far, as the evil is too strong for anyone but the Chosen One to proceed.
There the Necronomicon awaits.
But did he really need a guide to tell him that checking around Vasquez Rocks is a good place to start?
When thou retrievest the book from its cradle, you must recite the words Clatu, Verata, Nictu.
Okay, so we all know those words were originally from the day the Earth stood still. Great, moving on. Ash doesn't have time to sit here and babble gobbledygook with the wise ass, though. He's got to head deep into the dark forest in search of the Necronomicon. Problem is the evil force, still unseen, but always from its own perspective, finds Ash and starts chasing his ass down, until he must seek refuge in an old dark windmill of plot convenience. While heading inside, he notices something strange about the mirror. It's supposed to be the year 1300, but those specific kinds of mirrors weren't invented until the year 1850. Oh, such sadistic evil at work toying with his mind already. At least to me, it's easier to pretend he's just going crazy than to accept Out of the Shards, Suddenly We're Treated to Fantasia starring Bruce Campbell, or the version of Gulliver's Travels where the Lilliputans are sadistic murdering assholes. Take your pick. Eventually they knock Ash out and tie him down, only to force his mouth open and have one of the little bastards dive down his throat. This results in a sudden growth. Alright, so Deadites possess you by something, but not by you eating them, which does explain why Bobby Joe ate that eye and didn't get possessed by it. But it does mean that, if I should really stop trying to figure this out. The end result of this is this growth grows into another Bruce Campbell. This, as it were, is evil Ash, and is here to beat up good Ash.
Little goody two-shoes!
Problem is, while he grew back his right hand and the clothes he was wearing, for some reason the shotgun wasn't part of the deal. But this does remind me of that whole mini-possessed thing Ash was suffering from, and yeah, that never comes up again. Hey? Though there are established rules of the Deadites you can count on, like how you gotta dismember them to break the spell, so Ash dices his doppelganger with deadly determination. This results in the classic bury and plant headstone scene from the last 2 movies. With that out of the way, Ash has no problem reaching the depths of the cemetery to find the Necronomicon. All 3 editions of it.
Hold it. Nobody said anything about 3 books.
Yeah, Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. I know they sell you the idea that you only need the Player's Handbook, but trust me, you gotta get all 3. The writing sucks. The Book of the Black Hole does give the movie a chance to show just how far off the deep end the direction has gone, going into live-action cartoon territory. As it turns out, the 2nd edition really bites. But for some reason, being bitten on his left hand does not result in a hand possession like his right hand did before, because, well, fuck it. The point is, after Ash survives those 2 challenges, it's kind of obvious which one's the real one. Now he's just gotta recite the words.
Klaatu! Verata!
Noodle. It's an N-word. It's definitely an N-word.
Definitely an N-word.
No surprises here. Ash can't remember the word to save his life, or indeed anyone else's, so he tries to mask it with a cough before taking the book in hopes it works. Seconds later, we see nope. Thanks to him taking the book without reciting the magic words properly, he has unleashed the Deadite scourge onto the land. But weren't the Deadites scourging the land already before this happened? Or is this kind of like how in the first movie they were fucking shit up long before they actually were technically awoken? Yeah, maybe this just unleashed a really, really big scourge of Deadites, as suddenly the dead are rising again, unleashing the horrors of Three Stooges sketches on the world. I know it's your thing, Raimi, but you do realize that this particular scene, it kind of drags on. No music. It's just... While we're confusing how Deadites do and don't work, why not have the killed and dismembered Evil Ash reconstituted by the spell and get back to work?
I live again.
Because consistency is for pussies. Nevertheless, upon returning to Arthur's village, Ash hands the book to the wise man and is chastised for forgetting the words and dooing the human race to be killed by some army of darkness. Not that he cares all that much. The deal was that he gets the book, they send him back, and that's what he wants. There goes the entire population's motivation. But what's this? That Deadite creature from the Evil Dead 2 finally shows up, swoops in, and kidnaps Sheila. If only I remembered how my shotgun worked. Or maybe he just grabbed a damn bow or something. What the fuck was I doing with a sword? Seems the Deadites kidnapped quite a few ladies, and Evil Ash forcibly makes out with Sheila slightly less harshly than a tree would. This, however, is enough to galvanize Ash's decision to not leave everyone to rot and die, and likely be possessed and reincarnated to kill their friends, who also likely would come back as even more Deadites to live forever, but evil, and instead stay behind to fight off the scourge once and for all. Thing is, it's not just his evil twin in the Army of Darkness he's going to have to face.
Oh, there's a sight for sore bones.
Okay, so being bitten twice, not possessed. Eating Deadite, not possessed, but creates Evil Deadite twin. Evil Deadite twin makes out with you, possessed. And I know I said I gave up on this, but I really, really want to figure it out. As I don't have much time before the Army of Darkness arrives to kill them all, Ash and company must hurry to prepare. Fortunately for the townspeople, Ash's car just so happened to have a chemistry textbook in the trunk, just in case he happened to find himself sent back in time 700 years. Using this and the blacksmith's impressive mecha crafting skill set, they surprise the Army of Darkness with a blast from the future. I'm trying to think of something witty to say about the movie, but every bone in my body is just screaming, you see? Exploding arrows are OP as fuck. Everyone else is stuck with fucking medieval weapons and armor, and maybe a little healing spell here and there, and these motherfuckers show up to battle with a fucking rocket launcher. You can't fault their resolve, though, as the Army of Darkness, though suffering massive casualties due to game balancing issues, still managed to push forward and break through the gate. As the battle intensifies, Ash pulls out his secret weapon, his Oldsmobile now pimped out to be an industrial-strength upside-down lawnmower!
It's the one in the car we want! Get him!
What's a car? It's that big metal thing with wheels and no horses to pull it. It's the year 1300. How do you know what to call it? I'm yelling at you with no lungs or vocal cords, and this is what you choose to complain about! Suddenly, a wild Sheila appears, though, so Ash dives out of the vehicle, destroying it, and meaning it had absolutely no bearing on the events of this battle outside of decapitating a handful of skeletons, if that even works. This keeps him well distracted as the possessed Sheila tries to kill him, so Evil Ash has plenty of time to fight through the much less important, and therefore much less powerful, soldiers guarding the Book of the Dead. Eventually, though, this struggle does come to an end. These new Deadites, they just don't make them like they used to. After she is laid to rest, it's the final showdown between Ash and Evil Ash. As we can expect, this is a big, drawn-out fight with some pretty good cinematography to back it up. And of course, a last-minute save. All hope seems lost as Evil Ash gets his hands on the Necronomicon and loads himself up on a catapult to escape. But then... did that kill him? I mean, the battle did a number on him, and he just kept going. And he's been dismembered before and came back just fine, so... Fuck it, that's the least of my concerns. Somehow the second death of Evil Ash brings Sheila back to life. Not as a deadite, but as a human. A human was impaled and thrown off a wall, but she's better now. Holy fuck, I cannot begin to understand how. Either way, the wise man provides Ash with a potion to bring him back to his own time, and he ends up leaving Sheila behind anyway, so... happy ending. He winds up back at his old job at S-Mart, reciting the tale of his adventures in the past to some less than convinced co-workers. Ah well, the Deadites are gone, so that's that. Except, of course, he had to recite specific words to get the potion to work correctly, and he fucked that up, despite them being the exact same words he was supposed to remember before for some reason. Resulting in an action scene where Ash pulls out a lever-action rifle loaded with far more rounds than they could friggin' hold. Unless maybe it's a 22 made up to look like a 45-70. Point is, he saves the store and gets the girl. Yes, another one. They just have them stocked in case of action movies. I should also mention, this is not exactly how the movie was originally intended to end. I mean, yeah, Ash fucked up drinking the potion, but it was supposed to end up in the far, far future, in an apocalyptic wasteland ruled by Deadites. But test audiences thought that that ending was far, far too depressing, and they wanted something a little more fun and flashy and far less likely to have people write in and beg for a sequel to. But anyway, that was Army of Darkness, and its reputation precedes it. Though, in my opinion, it's okay. On one hand, it's clearly a much different movie from its predecessors, and therefore anyone judging it based on how well it did The Old Dark House is missing the point entirely. However, as an action comedy, while it had plenty going for it, I personally felt that the whole package, while entertaining, wasn't really above and beyond in any major way. Evil Dead 2 was a brilliant blend of horror and comedy, but Army of Darkness seems to lean much farther towards the comedy and lets the action suffer quite a bit for it. Yes, there are action scenes, fuck tons of action scenes, but you can count the amount of serious fights on one hand. Just about all the shots during the war are tongue-in-cheek in one way or another. Also, I have to bring up the quality of the skeleton army. Sure, you don't need top-notch effects in a comedy, but they did come off lacking in my opinion. The skeleton puppets were pretty stiff, and Big Battle saw guys in suits standing in who moved better, but since they obviously weren't skeletons, were put in the back. This is somewhere I feel that a lot of stop motion would have been very good to use, but that's not what we got. Nevertheless, Army of Darkness does a good job giving us a deeper look at Ash considering he's working by himself for a lot of the movie. Even when there are people around, they're not necessarily with him yet. The time spent helps flesh out the character. Also, yes, the movie was a lot of fun to watch and an enjoyable experience to me, just not enjoyable enough for me to rate it higher than 3 chemistry lesson montages out of 5. Personally, I'm intrigued by the alternate ending, though. I mean, I didn't even know about it until I did research for this review. But sci-fi future Deadites. I could get behind that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Shado. And remember, shop smart. Shop S-Mart. It's in pesos. You'll get a fucking awesome deal.
What's that you got on your face?
Huh? I'll come back for you!